Good Tavach, everyone. Welcome back as we learn Mishna Yomis for Motzei Shabbos of Parashas Bamidbar, going into Yom Rishon of Parashas Nasa. A good Chodesh Sivan, everyone, as we learn the final Mishnah in the seventh parak of Shekalim, and start the first Mishnah in the final parak of Shekalim, Mishnah Aleph, it is a good Chodesh Sivan on this 45th day of the Omer, sponsored by the Fisher family, Lila Nishmas Bas Yabas Rabbi Shlomo ben Avram Alevi, Perel Bas Ruvain, also sponsored Lila Nishmas Levi Yitzchak ben Meir, Yaakov Moshe ben Zev, Lefu Shalei Mafelio Mesha ben Chayesaro, also sponsored by Yoel Klugman and family. And we start Mishnah Zayin that tells us that another enactment of Bezdin is, even though the salt in the Beis Hamikdash and the wood was really for communal funds for the Mizbeach, but they permitted ala melech v'ala eitzim, the salt and the wood, sheyiyu akahanim neyosim b'hem. The Kohanim could use it to cook up the kachim, to eat it, and to salt the kachim that they eat. V'ala pora, and the ash of the paraduma, shelo yiyu moyelin be'efra, that the Kohanim, if they use it on their wounds, they put the ash on their wounds, they're not moyelin the ash that was supposed to be used for the meichatas, to purify those that contaminated by the dead. There was an initial me'ilah d'Rabbanan, but they waived it because they saw that the Kohanim were using it. V'alakinim apsuls, remember we said that there were two shafaras, two kaffers that you put in the money for the kinim, for the bird offerings. What happens if when the Kohanim took out the money and purchased birds, they found the birds disqualified, or they disqualified the birds? What happens? Who pays for the replacements? So Valakinim Apsules, the bird offerings, now they didn't know who the owner was. They just took the money and offered it for whoever it was. So who pays for it? They don't know who the owner is in order to collect the money, so who pays for it? So Valakinim Apsules, disqualified kinim, shiubois mishal tzibur. It's replaced from the money of the community. Rabbi Yossi says, if the birds were found to be disqualified, no good, then the vendors that supplied the birds have to supply the replacements. Rabbi Yossi Aimer, Hamasapek es akinim, the vendors that gave the birds to Hekdesh, Mesapek es absolus, they make good for those that were disqualified, like we learned that they do if the flour is wormy or the wine becomes vinegar, that they have to supply Hekdesh with a replacement, because Hekdesh is always Yodai al Yoina. Now, as we start the first Mishnah in the 8th parak of Masechtas Shekalim, Kol Arukin Hanimtzaim B'Yerushalayim, all spittle found in Yerushalayim. Now, remember, the spittle of a zava, is an avatuma, but all spittle that's found in Yerushalayim is tahirim, because we go bas a raiv, and Rav people are not a Zav and a Zava, Chutz Mishel Shuka Elyon, except for spittle found in the upper market, which the Rav says the upper market were habituated by Goyisha laundrymen, and they were Goyizer on a guy that he has a Tumah of a Zav, and therefore the spittle is Tameh because of them. The Rav says a second shot that since the Shuka Elyon was not populated, that's where the Zav and the Zava hung out, and therefore the spittle over there would be Tameh, Divrei Meir. Rabbi Yossi says an entirely different way of looking at it. Rabbi Yossi Aimer, B'shayim Hashana, the rest of the year, when people don't have to be careful not to become Tameh, because they're not entering into the Mikdash, they're not bringing usually karbanas, so Shebe'emtze Tmeim, in the spittle found in the middle of the road, is tummy, because since people don't have to be careful, the tmeim walk in the middle of the road. The shebet stadim tayrim, but spittle found on the side where people that are tahor walk to make sure they don't come in contact with everybody, that spittle is tahor. But a b'shas haregel, during the season of the regel of the mayed, when most people are tahor because they want to do the mitzvah of aliyah l'regel and enter the mikdash and bring their oilus re'iyah and and bring karbanos and eat karbanos, so then Sheba'emtza Tar, in the middle of the road is tar. But Shebetzadin Tmeim, but then, since the Tamei person is in the miyat, he makes sure to stay to the side, because then at the time of the moed, they are in the minority, they remove themselves and walk on the side, so then spittle that's found on the side is going to be tamei. We want to thank everybody for joining us and remind you that if you would like to sponsor a share, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. We remind you that on zoomdaf.com there'll be a special share given in Jamaica, Queens, 8:30 Monday night, which will be aired on the Zoom coordinates. That's zoomdaf.com, 8:30 p.m. Thank you for joining us and have a wonderful evening.